Good afternoon. Welcome to Leonard Leans Left while it's still legal. Oh, the camera's doing that fucking thing again. Alright, how you guys doing? There it goes. I don't know what's up with that. It's Tariff Day! Trade war is on! The stock market took a shit today, like, hey, everything's going great. If you're not paying attention to this stuff, today, tariffs came down, not on our enemies, on our friends. We got Canada, you get a tariff. Mexico, you get a tariff. China gets one, but only 10%. It's almost like he's trying to reposition us away from our traditional allies and with these fucking we've joined the axis of evil all of a sudden. Anyway, for those of you who watch this show regular, you know there's a chat box, so it gets the comments from both YouTube and Facebook, so you can talk to us. And today I'm not alone. I have all the way from Canada. What'd you say, Vancouver? Vancouver, Canada. Former NHL athletic trainer and now full-time touring comedian, Mr. Brian Patafi, is with us. There he is. Brian Patafi, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Hey, thanks for having me on. I couldn't pick a better day.
Thanks for coming. Yes, it's Tariff Day.
It is Tariff Day, yeah. Yeah.
It's Love Your Enemies and Fuck Your Friends Day.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, there's a lineup at the health center today because everybody's getting AIDS tested today because it seems like Trump is sticking it up our ass. And so...
Hey, listen, I want to get into all that, but I did want to ask you some questions. Because I never met you before. We have some mutual friends, but
yeah.
How does one go from being an NHL athletic trainer to, first of all, what team did you train for?
I was with the Calgary Flames for just over 20 years, and then I went over to Germany and worked in Frankfurt, Germany for a while. But I was with Calgary in the NHL, and I was with their organization for a long time. But you know what, Bruce? I grew up with a speech impediment. I have a lisp, and when you're in a locker room with 25 professional athletes, they will find anything and punch at it. And punch at it. So my lisp was either my downfall or I was going to embrace it. And I embraced it. And I was the court jester in the locker room. And then in the off season, I did a lot of, emceeing and at golf tournaments and sports banquets and things like that. And I tried to bring humor to it. And 5 years ago, I was introducing an NHL future Hall of Famer at a talk, a Hall of Fame talk. And a talent agent came up to me after my speech and said, have you ever thought of going into stand-up? And I told him, I said, as much as I'd love it, I said, I got to have notes. I said, I'm at a podium. I have notes. I look down at cheat sheets. And he goes, well, you know what? You can figure something out. And I did. And I'm going to give away a trade secret right now. I feel like Colonel Saunders giving the secret recipe away. But on the stool that's up on the stage, I have laminated cheat sheets that sit there.
Yeah, and a lot of people, especially
after my very first show.
Right.
Oh, yeah. But after my first show, get them laminated, because if there's somebody up before you, they're going to stick their drink on it.
Right.
and you're going to get up there and it's going to be a blur of Sharpie. So I have, yeah. So I said I'd give it a try, and my first year I did half a dozen shows, and I loved it. I couldn't wait to get back at it. And then
Sure.
we had the lockdown, and then after
Right.
the lockdown, I got back in, and I was taking, like Joe's Bar and Grill could call and say, hey, you know what, we need a guy for Friday. Will you come out? And I was taking it. I was taking everything,
Sure.
and embracing it. Had a lot of fun with it.
Well, you
And
should perform anywhere you can.
oh yeah, yeah.
All
Well,
different kinds
no,
of
and
environments.
yeah, I'm learning that from my peers in the business. That there's if you get a chance to get on a stage, you get on. And one thing else I'm learning too, and I have an agent that helps me with a lot of bookings, but I asked her one day. I said, Sheila, I said, I could send out 20 emails and I'll get one answer. And she goes, yeah, that's what it's like. She
Yeah,
goes, that's
yeah.
what it's like.
Show business. Rejection.
Yeah,
you
yeah. And,
gotta get
I'll
used
tell
to
you what, I
being
used to
rejected.
rejection in my, but this hurts even more. So, but
So you
but
started you
that's
started
what
right
got
before
it.
the pandemic, you said?
Yeah, I started. I said, and then a guy that was working with me says, "Hey, do a podcast. While everything's locked down, do a podcast. Get your name out there." And fortunately, you meet a lot of people,
Oh,
and,
sure.
and I've got stories where I had lunch with Phil Collins, and I toured with, and so I reached out to people that I had met through my days. So I had Alice Cooper on my podcast. I had Sandy Gennaro, the drummer. Um, and he played in the Monkees, and
Hmm.
he played with Cyndi Lauper, a real good drummer, lives in Nashville now. Had him on. Blanchard Ryan, an actress, award-winning actress from the movie Open Water. So I met all these people in my travels,
Right.
and everybody thought, oh, I'm going to do a hockey podcast. Well, it was the furthest thing from hockey.
Right.
What I would do is I'd bring two people in from two totally different genres and let them communicate for an hour, and we would find out the drummer and the Hall of Fame sports writer had a lot in common,
Sure.
or the actress and the gymnast had a lot in common. So
Sure.
it was a lot of fun, but also I had some heart problems, and my doctor says you can do one or the other. He said you can't be pounding into, and this, podcasts are tough. I mean, the research you got to do, and getting the
Yeah.
guests and making sure they show up and everything else. So I said, okay, well, I'm just going to tour. I'm going to get a motorhome and I'm going to tour, and it's been a gas. It's been a lot of fun.
That's great. So did you retire from training, or you said you worked for him 20
I
years?
had 44 years total.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, I did. After 20 years with Calgary, um, I had to leave for medical reasons,
Right.
and that's because the organization got sick of me.
Right.
Okay, so it was like
Yeah, that can
I
happen.
worked through three sets of management there, but when management changes in pro sports, excuse me, it's usually the trainers and the equipment managers that go out the door too. So I got through three sets of. I had a year left on my contract when they let me go,
Hmm.
so I had a free year of money, and I could have done one or of two things. I could have went and sat for a year and just collected, 52 weeks in pay, or I
Sure.
could have taken a job in the minors and still collected my pay from Calgary. So there were some minor league jobs that opened up, and let me just give you a little bit about the Calgary weather patterns. Minus in the winter is not uncommon.
Right.
Summer in Calgary is 3 days in July. Um, just
Like,
absolutely.
oh, it's 60 degrees for 3 days.
Yeah. So here was this
This is
job
great,
in
eh?
yeah. Here was this job in Augusta, Georgia, staring me in the face. I had just gotten married. I waited till I was 42 years old to get married, and I had just gotten married, and I had said to my wife, Dawn, and she's from North Carolina. I said, I got an opportunity to go to Augusta, Georgia. I said, it's 4 hours from your home. She goes, let's go. She goes, it's far enough that my family's not just going to show up, but close enough that if we want to spend time with family, it's 4 hours away. So we went there. We spent 6 years there. We had a lot of fun times there. Then I went back to my hometown and worked in Ottawa. And then I went over to Germany, worked in Frankfurt, Germany. And everybody laughed because I was 62 years old when I went over to Germany. And everybody laughed and said, you ain't going to last a week over there. You don't know the language. You don't know the culture. Well, they weren't laughing a week later. No, you know what? And that's the thing. I don't drink anymore. But when I did drink, I never drank beer. I couldn't stand the taste of it. But they stopped laughing when they looked at my Facebook page and saw the fact that I was just having a good time visiting all these castles and everything else, and just seeing what it was all about. And my wife finally gets a hold of me on WhatsApp, and she says, "You're just having a great time, aren't you?" I said, "Oh, I love it over here." So her and the kids came over, spent a little bit over a month over there. We went to Paris for New Year's, and we just embraced everything. You know, it was like because we didn't know if we'd ever go back, so we just embraced culture over there, and had a lot of fun.
It's one of the things I love about doing comedy is the traveling.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You go to see different places and meet different people from all over the place. You know.
Yeah. You
find out that people are pretty much the same.
They
no
really are.
They are.
You know,
it's just the weird traditions that surround them. Like when you sit down with people, no matter where they're from, everybody's pretty similar. You know, everybody wants the same shit. Just want to be happy.
Oh, yeah.
So, speaking of that, so what's the mood like up there?
Well,
I mean, Trump, I don't know why Trump has decided to come after you guys so hard and like wanting you to be the 51st state, and now he's gonna tariff you and all this shit. Like, did you guys expect this?
The guy's a fucking idiot. Okay, that's the bottom line.
Right.
That's the bottom line. Here is the problem, and no offense against my American brethren, because my wife's American. My 2 children were born in the U.S.
Right.
But Americans mistake Canadians' kindness for weakness.
Sure.
And we're not weak. Okay?
Oh, I know.
We're not weak. We are very kind people. Will reach out. One thing about Canadians, we'll reach down and lift somebody up, but we won't reach up and pull somebody down. That's just in our DNA.
Right.
So, you know, he comes up with, you know, we're going to have these tariffs, and Prime Minister Trudeau up here tried to explain to him, well, you know, you're tacking 25% on, and we're going to tack 25% onto you, and it's your consumers going to pay for it. But he wouldn't listen, you know, he wouldn't listen because he's uneducated. Okay, so when a man threatens to sue the media for looking into his marks at Wharton, which he didn't go to Wharton. He might have worked there as a custodian, but he didn't go to Wharton. He's not smart enough to go to Wharton.
Right.
You know, so he won't show his taxes. He won't show his marks from university.
He don't show anything.
No, he won't show anything.
He's got away with it. That's the thing that kills me.
The only person in his family that shows anything is Melania. And you know what? I don't want my kids looking at that. So,
right.
So anyway, I just, you know, I look back at some of the things in the relationship between Canada and the U.S., and I know that cooler heads, if they would prevail. And I just, you know, I made some notes when I knew I was coming on. So, 9/11.
Right.
During 9/11, Gander, Newfoundland took in 38 commercial flights from the United States of America. returning to the U.S. from Europe and whatever. They took in 38 commercial flights. Gander, Newfoundland has a population of just under 10,000 people. There were 6,600 people and 14 animals that they housed for days. And they fed and they took care of. And there was an award-winning Broadway musical called Come From Away that showed people what the town of Gander, Newfoundland did.
Right.
Because we're allies. We're neighbors.
Yes.
I
agree. 100%.
Just over a month ago, our water bombers were in L.A. helping put out the wildfires.
Yes.
Electrical workers and trucks are down in Florida, North Carolina, and Georgia during Hurricane Helene getting power back up. That's who we are.
Right.
The Canadian paper back in 1980, when 6 American diplomats were hidden in the U.S. Embassy and the Canadians moved them into the Canadian Embassy, printed Canadian passports for them and snuck them out of the country, and that happened in 1980 in Iran. Okay. Our border, between both sides of the border, 400,000 people cross that border every day and do $2.7 billion in goods and commerce every day.
Yes.
So, we suffered with the border during COVID, and now the U.S. is suffering with the border. I did shows in Seattle a couple of weeks ago. It's 90 minutes from here. I was concerned I was going to be late because on the Friday I got to the border at noon, and usually on a weekend the border is lined up for half an hour, 45 minutes.
Right.
I was the only car going into the U.S. The only car. Because you know what? The people up here said, the hell with it. We'll spend our money up here.
Right.
So
I knew, like, sooner or later, no one's talked about that. Like, people from all over the world, they're not going to come here on their vacation while he's president.
Well, the
whole tourism industry all over America is going to suffer because of all this.
It is in a lot of ways, because when he wasn't president, when Bush was in, or Reagan, or any other Republican were in, it didn't make a hill of beans difference to me. I wanted to go to the U.S., I would go to the U.S.
Right.
But now people are going, I won't go while he's in there. And this is all self-inflicted.
Sure.
He's had the gun. He's had the gun, and he's playing Russian roulette with it. And he's shooting himself in the foot.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
or the
he
ear.
has surrounded himself with minions. He's surrounded with minions. Nobody will speak up.
Well, this is the thing that I can't get is that the majority they have is slim. It only take about 5 of them, and they could stop him in his tracks. But everyone is terrified of him. I've never seen anything like it. No one will go against him. Everyone knows that this is a bad idea, and they're just letting him drive the car right off the cliff.
Oh yeah.
Because they're afraid to speak up. But it's like, I've never seen anything like it. I wanted to ask you. You guys have the. Obviously you have some right people because Tom McDonald exists up there. You guys ever had a Trump guy, like a clown,
Oh yeah.
right-wing guy?
Right now, the guy that's running for the Conservative Party, Polyev, we call him Maple Magna, or Maple MAGA, okay?
Right.
Because he's Canadian, and he's a Walmart Trump. If you could have a Walmart Trump,
Right.
Like let's say
Dollar Trump.
Yeah, it's a dollar Trump. Yeah. But here's the thing. Bruce. And my language doesn't portray it. and my words don't portray it, but my life portrays it. So I'm going to go on a limb here and share something with you. I'm a Christian, okay, but I'm a Christian that I have a personal relationship. So I don't tell people and I don't judge people, because my relationship is my relationship. And the way I look at it is, if this is all a fallacy, it's not a bad way for me to live.
Sure.
It's a good way for me to live. But
well, that's the point of it, isn't it? Religion in general
exactly.
is to try to teach people to be good people, but people pervert it into something else.
Oh, I'm watching people like Franklin Graham, go out and being a big Trumper. And I had said one night, I said, Billy Graham is spinning so hard in his grave right now, watching what his son is doing. His God wants to use him.
I bet, but all the churches
use him for a ceiling fan in the pool room.
Right.
I mean, come on. Like, so it when I watch what the evangelicals do and what they say and who they support, no, you know what? That's not what we're taught.
No.
I read.
They would string Jesus up as a dirty liberal.
Yeah. I'm reading from the book of John. They're reading from the book of hypocrisy.
You're like, you're really gonna feed these people with them 2 fish? Come on, man. That's socialism. Were you some kind of communist?
And that's another thing about religion. I grew up a Catholic, and we had fish every Friday. So if Jesus did come and multiplied the fish again, I ain't eating.
Right. The Catholic Church is a whole nother, like, whew.
Yeah. Well, I was an altar boy.
Oh, really?
I was an altar boy, and I remember 12 years old, and our priest left the parish. And we all knew why he left the parish. But the Archbishop of our diocese brought in another priest, and he was introducing him to the deacons and all the altar boys and the nuns. And he goes, in honor of Father McClinty, on Sunday, we're going to let him pick 3 hymns. Well, he looked at his altar boys and he goes, I pick him, I pick him, and I pick.
Exactly. What I don't get is that all that happened and people still kept going. Like,
well, look,
and then they go those gay people and trans, they're grooming the children. They're like, no. It's like
yeah, and it's so fun because when you go through social media, you read, this youth director at this church and this guy at this church is arrested for this, arrested for that, and the liberals go, not trans, not this, not that.
Yeah.
It's just like people just gotta shut up and live a good life. But you say they all go back to, they all went back to church. Look at what you guys went through for 4 years. And he's back in again. It's like,
I still have not ever been able to wrap my head around it. I always say this. I always say, like, I understand why he exists. I understand people are disaffected by the system and they think that it's a garbage system and
yeah.
And I get the grievances and all that. And then you're like, but this fucking guy? It's like this orange fucking buffoon who couldn't even run a casino. And he's gonna fix all of everybody's problems. Is like that's the part of it that I don't get. Like, they could have picked anybody. Why it was him? I'll never know. I mean, I do know it's because of television. Reality television sold Trump as something that he never was. Like a successful corporate board, chairman of the board, CEO guy, and people watched that show and they bought into that. And they go, oh, this guy knows what he's doing, but everybody knows reality TV is complete bullshit, all of it. Like, I mean, maybe they don't because they bought into it, but I'm saying it is. It's totally scripted, made up.
But you know what? Our anger is directed towards him, where it should be directed towards the 30 million people that laid on their couch on election day and thought their neighbors were going to take care of it.
Or the people that said, I'm not voting for them because of Palestine. Like he's like, let's just kick them all out and take it. You're like, that's better than what it's like, my protest vote is to give it to the guy who's going to burn it all down. None of it makes any sense.
Move them. No. And so up here, the analogy we look at up here. The U.S. is our neighbor, but the original owners moved out, and a new guy moved in and turned it into a meth house. Like.
Right.
Just
have you seen those neighbors? Yeah, he was out on the lawn naked last night at 4:30 in the morning. Screaming about terrorists.
Yeah. Ben Shapiro had, and Musk we're talking today on X, and I'm not on X, but I've seen it on another website. Free Derek Chauvin.
Yeah,
and
I saw
Musk
that.
Goes, there's an idea. Like, are you kidding me? Do you want race riots? Is it like?
Well, see,
like,
that's the other part
know.
of it that I don't think that people get is that I don't believe that any of this is nothing more than a big troll move. See, what you don't get is Trump knows that this is it for him, so he's going all out.
Yeah.
He's going to troll everybody and go after everybody and get revenge on everybody that he thinks ever wronged him somehow or whatever. And he doesn't give a fuck what happens to people, regular people. And that's the part of it that I think sooner or later people are beginning to realize already that he's not really giving a fuck about the things he said. He's going to lower costs for people and make things more affordable. He's dumping gas and he's about to throw a match down and set everything on fire.
Well, you know what? He doesn't need to worry about fentanyl coming in. Anybody smuggling fentanyl from Canada in? He needs to worry about us smuggling eggs in. I can get $12 a dozen in Seattle.
Right.
I paid $2.93.
Well, that's the other part of it is that most of their reality is not real. Like all of their philosophies and all of their policies are all based upon mythical shit that's not real.
Yeah.
Like he signed that executive order to ban 10 people from sports.
Yeah.
10 people.
Yeah.
And they act like, they're changing the country with this. They're doing something, like, the reality is, it's not really that big of an issue.
No.
They just blow everything up into this. It's just like the alien thing. Like, there's all these criminal aliens we got to get them out of the country. Well, they're already running out of criminal aliens. And now they just got to grab up whoever they can because it's a myth. They're chasing something that's not real.
Hey, since the inauguration, not one Haitian has eaten a dog in Springfield, Ohio.
Exactly. That was a bullshit story, too.
Or the caravans. The last election, it was a caravan.
Well, there was always a caravan every fucking year. It's like, look at this caravan. And it's like, I got news for you. There's always been people coming up the fucking pipe.
Yeah.
And nobody says, they're there every day, but nobody says anything about it until there's an election about to happen. Yeah. And they're like, look at these people who've been there all along.
So, you know
we didn't care about it until just now.
Yeah.
Today.
And let me give you an analogy, okay?
Yes.
I am a mediocre comedian with a background in sports, okay?
Right.
You guys have a mediocre comedian with a background in MMA that's one of the most influential people in the U.S., and that's Joe Rogan.
Well, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah. So
About how Joe Rogan became, like, the voice of whatever the fuck.
Well, exactly. Nobody in Canada is going to take and put me on a pedestal because I wash jocks in the NHL, and
Right.
because I tell jokes at Yuck Yucks or the Comedy Store.
Right.
That doesn't, but this guy's parlayed it into a $21 million a year podcast.
Yeah, but see, first of all, the reason why he's where he's at is because he had one of the very first podcasts. He was first to the game, and he was already famous from doing fucking eat a bull penis or whatever. Fear Factor.
Yeah.
He was famous from that, and then doing the UFC just made him more famous. I've said multiple times, Rogan is a great fight commentator.
Yeah.
That's where his talent really lies. He's not a very good comedian.
No.
He's not very smart, his podcast, wherever. I mean, he has that, but, he's not really a smart guy. But he does know a lot about fighting. And he's good at doing the fight commentating. But anyway, the UFC got him more and more famous. Because the UFC is huge now. Huge. And he was smart too. He did once a week. He did a UFC. His podcast wasn't just him and guests. He did UFC once a week. And that's how he was able to get this millions and millions of following.
Yeah.
And his show used to be interesting. He used to not take himself so seriously. And the show was more about the guests that he brought on. And he had interesting guests. He would bring on like Neil deGrasse Tyson and all these people. And so you would listen to it to hear them. And then he would ask, questions every now and then, but most of the time it was about him. And then somewhere down the line, I guess he thought that he's talked to enough smart people. And now he's smart.
Yeah.
Like through osmosis somehow, he became smart, and now it matters what Joe Rogan thinks about stuff. And they're like, I never one time turned on his show thinking, I wonder what Joe Rogan thinks about anything. The only thing that I think Joe Rogan knows more about than me is fighting.
Yeah.
Because that's his true expertise. He knows a lot about fighting. He knows all, he knows all those moves. He knows about different styles of fighting. He knows, and he's really good at that. But the rest of it, it's just like a guy who took a hit of DMT and just started fucking talking shit.
Oh yeah. Geez, where'd you learn that? Do you have your master's, your doctorate? No, I stayed in a Holiday Inn Express last night. He
doesn't have any of that, and that's something that I, in America, you got to understand. It's just like Trump. It's like if you have a lot of money, like Elon Musk. Listen to Elon Musk talk, and you go, this guy's not that smart. Go to his Twitter feed. Like, he gets fooled by ridiculous bullshit all the time because he's not really that smart. He just has a lot of money. But in America, if you have a lot of money, people think, oh, that guy must be smart. He must be a genius. He's got a lot of money.
And so the thing is, too, is when it was introduced the other day that America's got a green card, but now they're coming up with a gold card, for $5 million. You could,
every country in the world can buy their spies into America for the low price of $5 million. But when you think of that, Russia gave Tim Pool and Benny Johnson $10 million to pump their Russian propaganda in their podcasts, you start to see what's really going on.
Yeah.
It's a giant brainwash machine.
Yeah.
That they have constructed, and it works.
I'll tell you, as a John Q. Public, I would like to take Benny Johnson behind the outhouse and just kick the living shit out of him. He has just got that smug look on his face.
Him and Poole.
Yeah, well, Poole's just mentally handicapped. I mean, he wears that beanie to cover the lobotomy scarf.
Right?
Yeah.
He's got a Neuralink in there.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is controlling him with like an Xbox controller.
Yeah. I wish Elon would take that Xbox controller and go try to see the Titanic.
No, but here's my question.
Yeah.
There was a time in this country, not that long ago, if you told somebody that this guy took $10 million to pump Russian propaganda into America, or from America, he would either be in prison or fucking shot. Or
Yeah.
Right, the Rosenbergs got fucking executed for less than that.
Well, it's like
so when did it become okay to be treasonous bastard? Like, that's what I want to know.
Well, exactly. And the American way. It's so funny because somebody had told me I went to see the Hoover Dam, and somebody had told me that during the drought a few years back, they were finding all the bodies.
Yeah, I was out there. Yeah, they were finding dead bodies in the lake.
Yeah, and
I said, this water tastes funny. I said, it's vintage, 1960s mafia.
Yeah. Okay, every time. Remember Tammy Faye Baker?
Say what?
Do you remember Tammy Faye Baker, the evangelist? Yes. So every time she'd take her makeup off, I was sure they were going to find Jimmy Hoffa.
It's just Jimmy in drag.
Yeah. So, but that, it was vigilante justice back then. I'm not saying it's right, okay? I'm not saying it's right, but you didn't have people on the chain from, our worst enemy, and shoot propaganda from our worst enemy. That
for instance, Tucker Carlson goes over there regularly. And just walks around and goes, isn't it great over here in Russia? It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck is going on?
But the thing is, he's got this following. And same as Hannity, They have this following. And
this guy said today, Mark Wayne Mullen, one of the worst nutlickers in the fucking Congress. But he was on CNN today, and he said, "Oh well, the Russian people picked Vladimir Putin to be their leader." It's like, did they? Did they?
Anybody that ran,
I'm not sure that's an accurate statement.
Yeah.
He's talking about them like they're us. You know what I mean? Like it's just the same. And it's like, it's not just the same, bro. And if that's how you want it to be, fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just, when I hear these people, and like I say to myself, because maybe I need a civics class, but when I listen to people like Mark Wayne Mullen, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Boebert, Susan Collins, I go, like, what kind of background do they have? Like there's no criteria.
I think Lauren Boebert, she had the GED, I think.
Yeah, it's a 3 tries.
I don't believe she even graduated high school.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure you can look that up. Like, I'm pretty sure it's real.
Yeah, it took her 3 tries. And and then I just go, okay. And then some of the stuff that comes out of their mouths and the lack of decorum, during Biden's State of the Union, they're up there howling like a couple of howler monkeys, for God's sake.
That's
like,
the part.
Who does that?
And then if you do something, they go, "Oh, you're disrespecting." It's also hypocritical, all of it.
Oh God!
It's like, and like I said, it's become like politics in America has become like performative reality TV.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And like, hardly none of the times Are they? That's the other part that I can't wrap my head around. Hardly any of the time or any of these people talking about things that would benefit you or help you or it's all culture war bullshit.
Mm. Yeah, well, and we're going through it up here, but in a minority.
Well, that's what I was
Because
wondering because there
there's
is.
things.
I said you do have Tom McDonald and what's his name, Jordan Peterson, isn't he Canadian?
Yeah, but you know what? Take our idiots and we send them down there. Ted Cruz was born up here, and we send him down, and we don't send a gift receipt with him, so you can't return them. You know, um,
Well, I always wondered
Yeah,
that about Ted Cruz. Did you guys run him out of Canada, or did he just leave?
well, no, his old man worked in the oil business in Calgary.
Right.
And so yeah, so Ted was hatched in Calgary, and then the
So
old man
rich,
went back.
rich oil parents.
Yeah, yeah. So
So that's why he went to Texas.
yeah, he went back to Texas. Yeah, yeah, and but he was born in Canada, but he renounced his citizenship, which I didn't see anybody up here.
Oh no, Ted, no!
Yeah, don't go.
Please,
Like,
please
yeah,
don't leave.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like if he was standing on the edge of the Golden Gate Bridge, we'd all be telling him the water's warm.
Right.
Like, yeah. But
was he involved in Canadian politics or?
no, not at all, not at all. In fact, nobody up in Canada knew who he was until Trump insulted his wife,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then we were waiting for, okay, let's see this American. They're gonna fight it out. Like there's gonna be a fight here.
Yeah,
But
no.
oh no, he
He got down on the knee.
Yeah,
He licked
yeah.
them nuts so hard.
Oh, I'll tell you what. Yeah, yeah,
That's the other
yeah.
part that I don't get is Trump does that all the time.
Oh
He
yeah,
shits all over people like as hard as he can, and then they just take it.
yeah,
I've never
yeah.
seen anything like it.
I
It's so like
and I mean,
it's like a abusive relationship.
yeah,
Trump's like the guy that slaps his wife around when he comes home, and
yeah,
and
and then buries her on a golf course.
yeah, he did do that.
So I look at it two ways. Okay, very disrespectful to bury his ex.
I've always wondered about his kids. Like that's their mom.
Yeah, but
Are you really gonna bury mom on a golf course, bro? Like really?
Well, and here's the thing: the only thing it did was change the layout at Bedmeister. Is they have an extra sand trap on number one.
It's like none of them are human beings.
No, no.
That's what I mean. Is like it's just and to me in general, the entire right wing, not even here, all over the world, it consists of people who don't really have empathy for other people.
No.
They're
No.
very selfish.
Yeah.
And have a superiority complex that they think that they're better than everybody else and that somehow they're getting fucked over. That's how
Yeah.
they reel them in. It's like
Yeah. I worked with an equipment manager in the minor leagues, and obviously I'm not going to mention his name.
right.
But he was he fit the bill of he had the big beard, the bald head, very hateful. And I walked into his office one day, and he had an 8x10 glossy in a frame of Adolf Hitler.
Really?
Yeah, and I said to him, okay, my kid works here as a locker room attendant. But I said, before we even get into my thoughts of my kids seeing that, I said, that's coming down right now. Or I said, we're going to come to blows.
Right.
And he goes, that's my freedom of speech. And I took it and I fired it on the floor and I said, and that's mine. You know, so they're out there.
Yes.
Out there where you don't expect them.
They
You
are.
know what I mean? Could be the kid bagging your groceries. Could be the CEO of of Kroger. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, they won't. They won't say what he did. It
No,
must be.
but
I was talking to somebody today that used to work there at Kroger. The manager at my store used to work at Kroger, and I was like, yeah, I was like, it must be really bad what he did because they ain't saying it and they're trying to keep it a
yeah,
secret. You're like, it
but
must be
but
really bad to be like,
but
oh, you gotta go like right now, and then be
and
like, well, we did an
but
investigation, but it was personal conduct.
oh yeah,
Like,
but
what kind of personal conduct? Well, it's pretty
so
fucking
and the
bad.
thing like from a Canadian standpoint here,
It's gonna come out eventually, but I'm
oh
saying
yeah,
it's got to be bad. It's got to
yeah,
be really bad for them
well
to be
like
like, you
like
got to go right now. You know.
yeah, and from a Canadian standpoint, what Luigi did to the CEO of the healthcare
Sure.
company, we don't understand because we don't have that problem.
Right.
And why does the richest country in the world have that problem? You know,
Well, because look what, like I said, look what's going on. Capitalist, capitalist propaganda makes people worship these rich people. They think that these rich people, because they're rich, they got to be smart, you know, and that they care about them somehow, and they're going to take care of them. When most of them got rich by stepping on everybody and fucking over people. Like, look at Trump's entire cabinet. There's not one person that doesn't have like some heinous skeleton in the closet.
oh
You know,
yeah, yeah,
they're all fucking horrible, terrible people.
yeah.
That's
So
easily documented. But yet still, people say, oh, these rich people, they know what they're doing. They're going to take care of it. It's like a
yeah.
sickness. It's like a brainwashed sickness. Like,
Well, and it's the people that follow them and kowtow to them and you know and that don't have two nickels to rub together, you know, and the thing is, and not a lot of these people that support Trump are people that Trump would have nothing to do
well,
with.
that's what I always say. It's like all these people that live around me, they all got, you know, they still got their Trump signs up and shit. And you're like, do you think he gives a fuck about any of you? If
Yeah,
you showed up where he was at, he'd be like, fuck, get this guy
yeah,
out of here.
oh yeah,
Julia says, there's little teenage asshats here at the school where I work who have carved swastikas into the desktops. They see me wearing my Star of David, and I kind of wonder if they're sending me a message. I'm the only Jew in this town. Well, that's got to be lonely. No, it reminds me. One time I was touring. This is a long time ago, but I was down in Alabama. I haven't only been there a couple times, but I was down in Alabama, and I'll never forget. I was at this bar, and these two black guys were shooting pool, and I went to go to the bathroom, and while I'm taking a piss, I'm looking at the wall. Right on the wall, it's carved, a big carved with a knife. It's like, die, N-words, die, you know. And I'm thinking to myself, man, these guys gotta live here, you know.
yeah.
They gotta live here, and when they go in the bathroom, they see that on the wall, you know. I can't even imagine what that's like,
Well,
you know,
it
like
it yeah.
to and if you think that the South has been like that institutionally for 100 years, they're, you know,
Oh
200
gosh,
years,
yeah,
300 years, like if you're a black person and you live in the South, you're surrounded by people that you know want to kill you, like, you know, or if they could, they would just kill you, you know.
well, I had a bus driver a black dude. His name was Jojo Gardone, and he used to drive the bus for James Brown in Augusta.
Yeah.
And Jojo was taking our hockey team through Biloxi. We were playing in Biloxi,
Mm-hmm.
and we're at the hotel across the road from the beach. And I said to Jojo, "You want to come out in the beach?" He goes, "Yeah, I do, Brian." He goes, "Because I'll tell you, back in 1962, when I was in the Army, I wasn't allowed on that beach. So you damn right I'm going over there."
Exactly.
And I'm a Canadian, and I didn't understand it. I go, "What do you mean you weren't allowed on the beach?"
He physically was not allowed.
Yeah, yeah, wasn't allowed.
If he walked out there, he'd probably get arrested.
Arrested, shot, lynched,
Yeah.
you know.
Or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
nothing good was going to come of it.
No.
But just to think that to have to live like that all the time, and that, it's just the equivalent of having to look over your shoulder, constantly all the time, and that's got to wear on you mentally.
Well, and the sad part about it is it goes in cycles. So I feel it going back to that now. You know what
Sure.
I mean? And I don't like it.
Well, that's the argument that people want to use all the time, and like I was trying to talk about it, a few shows ago, is that they went too far. That if they go too far to the left, then that triggers this backlash, and it's whiplash back to the right, and people always say, "Oh, liberals this and liberals that." It's like, I don't consider myself like a radical liberal. Like, I just think that everyone should be free to do whatever they want if they don't hurt nobody else, and they shouldn't be like a target for it.
Well,
that's it.
I'm party before the country. Okay, I've voted conservative in Canada before because the conservatives were going to take care of things that needed to take care of.
Right.
We had Stephen Harper in here for a long time as our prime minister, and he got our dollar, to a point, but he went 10 years. In 10 years, it's time for change, and I voted for him the last time he ran against Trudeau.
Do you guys have...
I thought Trudeau was doing a real good job, but then we had, and like I said, we call them the Maple MAGAs during COVID. We're all upset because, it wasn't Trudeau that shut the border. It was a combination of Canada, U.S. said, "You know what, we're going to shut the border. This is what we're going to do." My wife is living in North Carolina. I could not go to visit her unless I was fully vaxxed. And I couldn't drive to visit her. I had to fly, right. And I had to be fully vaxxed. And we went through time. But I will tell you what Trudeau did is we had what was called CERB up here. The minute the country shut down, there was a $2,000 check in our bank account every month. Now, we got taxed on it, okay? Right. And we got taxed on it. And then there was, if you were in a business and your business was, and you could, like there were some people that played the game. A lady owned a cake business. She made wedding cakes.
There were a lot of people playing the game.
Oh, yeah. So you got a $50,000 grant.
Right.
Well, they did some and it was like you didn't pay it back, but they did some investigation. They find out she was making $4,500 a year with her cake business. So there were people doing that.
Right.
But the government stepped up. They didn't have time to vet everything. They just stepped up to make sure we weren't losing our homes, our cars. We could go to the grocery store.
Right.
And he did a hell of a job. But you had these Maple MAGAs that, because they weren't, it was called hook and drop. They would hook their load up, they'd drop it at the border, an American truck would take it, or an American truck would drop the border and a Canadian truck would take it. Well, they didn't like that. They wanted to be going through the U.S. and making their mileage and making their per diem and making this. And it was a combination of both governments, but they blamed it on Trudeau, and they had this big convoy thing in Ottawa that just disrupted the whole neighborhood and the whole city.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then they were doing things like defecating on the war memorial and everything else. Didn't do themselves any favors.
See, no, the right-wing party always gets out of hand.
You know?
Somebody always, they did it at the Capitol here. They shit on the wall. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. You know.
It's
now
not a mega party if somebody didn't shit on the wall, you know.
Yeah. But now they're all walking free, you know. Yeah.
It's I think that the pandemic made the world go crazy.
Oh, I think
if
so.
If you ask me, like the world's never been the same since that happened.
No. You know, and it's like in a plethora of ways.
Everybody's sitting in their house just stewing in their whatever preferred propaganda brainwash, you know, that they're laying in, and a whole year of that, and then everybody came out.
Well, things that we don't even think of, like I go to Domino's to pick up my. Okay, I don't use DoorDash or Uber Eats or anything else. And I don't have my pizza delivered anymore. I just go pick it up because it's a block away and it's hot.
Right.
Well, when I go to pay with my debit card, the first thing that comes up is how much I want to tip. Well, you cooked my pizza and put it in a box.
Right.
Now, I did tip you during COVID because you were bringing it out to the car and there was this feeling of, you know, a lot of people, waitresses weren't working and restaurants were shut down. So we were throwing $5 and $10 back then because we were getting $2,000 a month from the government, right?
Right.
So, you know, and I was still working, you know. So.
Yeah, I was lucky. I worked through the whole pandemic because I worked at the grocery store.
Well, so it got into this habit. So now we're still like, it's the tipping culture and so like I say to myself, you know, whether it's Applebee's or you know, any of these chain restaurants that are, you know, showing on the stock market the big gains, pay your employees. I'm sorry, I lived in Europe. They don't tip over there. Pay your employees. I don't mind tipping.
Well, see, that's a scam too. They run here. Do you know if a person is tipped, if they classify their job as a tip job, they don't have to pay the minimum wage. They have a thing called sub-minimum wage, and that's what they get, which is like $3 an hour or some shit. I saw this this waitress was talking. She said they don't even get a check. The check just goes to taxes. You know, because they only get $2 something an hour or whatever. So. When their actual, the only money they live on is what they get on the tips. Now,
yeah, and I do feel for these people because that's what they do, and if I go and sit down in a restaurant, I will tip, but you know, if I go to McDonald's or if I go to Domino's to pick up.
Yeah, no, they have that now. I said, yeah, you go to get carry out, and it's like, would you like to add a tip? Like, for what? Like you work in the counter. Like, it's like, well, I feel the same way. I mean, my mom was a waitress. That's how you know, she fed me. So I understand it, but yeah, that's the same thing. That's out of hand too. Like, you don't have to tip the person because they turned around and got your food out of the window, turned around and set it down. It's like, oh, you put it in the bag for me. Oh, it's like, that's
it's
worth
funny
some money.
Because I have this policy when I do a show, especially if I headline and I'm gonna make a few bucks. I tip the sound man and I tip the girl that takes care of the green room.
Yeah.
Because sound man can make you or break you.
You know what's the most incredible thing I ever saw in my life was I got the privilege of working with Mitch Hedberg. And that was one thing I saw him do I never saw anyone else do ever. At the end of the week, when he got paid, and he always got paid in cash. So, you know, at the end of the week, he'd get paid I don't know, sometimes it was thousands and thousands of dollars. He would walk around and tip every person that worked in the club, even the dishwashers.
Mm.
He went all around, gave everybody $100. And I was like, man, I never ever seen that. Ever. And I have yet to see it again. Like,
Yeah.
it was amazing. And it was like, this person is, he was from Minnesota. He's almost you.
Well, funny.
He's Canadian light.
Yeah. But
that always stuck with me. And I
Yeah.
always said that if I ever got to that level, I was going to do the same thing. It was amazing.
Well, I'm not at that level. Mine's a paltry 25 for the
Well,
sound
me
man.
neither, but I'm just saying in general.
Yeah.
Just the
But-
idea of it
Yeah.
was amazing, and I said, and something that you never hardly ever see.
But then I've experienced other things too. You know, I did a show out in the place isn't open anymore at 5280 and 5280 in Pahrump, and they give you a $200 credit for the
Bunny Ranch. Yeah, pussy
I'll tell
coupon.
you once I played a show in Pahrump, there was no argument with me on KFC and Popeyes who's the best chicken, because it didn't even come close to what you can get in Pahrump.
Right. I used to say,
But
I
no,
only go to the Bunny Ranch when it's daylight
Yeah.
savings time. So they get an extra hour. I'm a thrifty consumer.
A $200 for the green room. So I watched a opener there one night.
Right.
Asked the girl how much used in our credit, and the headliner was up already. And she said, "You guys have used $96." And he says to me, "Are you getting anything else?" And I was drinking club soda. She goes, "Oh, he just drinks club soda. We don't even put it on the thing." He ordered $105 worth of food to go.
He's like, God damn, I'm getting it all. You taking my money?
Yeah, but I was driving with the back to Vegas, and I told him the story. He goes, "Yeah, welcome to stand-up comedy, kid." You know, I go, but who does that?
I've been doing shit like this my whole life, and I've never done anything like that.
Well, you know,
I have dignity. I'll starve, goddammit, before I embarrass myself like that.
It's like I travel in a motorhome now, and my agent, when she books me a place, she'll get me the travel buyout, right? So because I don't use their hotel or their meals or anything,
Right.
they usually be anywhere between 100 and 150 cash for your travel buyout.
Right.
But when I book and I ask, they go, "Oh no, our hotel's on a trade, so we don't give buyouts. So if you don't use it, it's not costing us anything, even if you do use it."
Right.
So, yeah. So it's I'm learning the biz, and I'm it's a lot like pro sports is you know, and a lot of my peers from the past in pro hockey will call and say, "Hey, you know," they'll go, "Pataf, what's it like?" Like every time we open up Facebook, you're here, you're there, you're here, you're there. Well, that's me trying to build a brand.
Right.
Okay.
That's how you do it.
But I do go into overkill promoting shows that, Bruce, you're not going to go to. You're not going to my show in Medicine Hat or Edmonton or Calgary next week.
I would if I could.
I'm sure you know about them because I've had them up there 15 days in a row.
Sure.
But
that's what you gotta do.
Yeah, but they asked me, "So what's it like?" I said, "You know what?" I said, "The best way I could put it is when I worked pro hockey, the athletes were the entertainers and I was the support staff."
Right.
I said, "Now I'm an entertainer, but I don't have any support staff."
Yeah, comedians don't no support. I was in a
Yeah.
band for a long time, and like at least in your band you have the other two or three guys
Oh,
that say, "What? Oh, Julian's burglar alarm went off. Oh no! Well, you better get home."
yeah. No, it's so it's funny but you know what? I'm
Man, I hope
60 years
everything's okay.
old and I'm having fun at it. So it's they'll probably have to carry me out of a place sometime. And
Sure.
but
I
if
mean, I wouldn't mind dying on stage.
well, yeah,
It's better
they'll
than
call.
dying and laying on your couch at home, alone or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, um,
Well, like somebody said.
I was telling somebody, I've never not done anything.
Well, that's the thing too. So when I turned 65 and my pensions kicked in and everything, I wasn't prepared to start golfing or go fishing or whittling or anything else. I just I just wanna work, but I want to work, and this is my passion. Okay.
Sure.
And so that's and that's what I try to explain to guys too. I said, if you're going to do something like this, then you better be financially secure in one area, because you know there's only so many George Carlins and Jerry Seinfelds and guys like that out there, and then there's a whole bunch of us. And
Sure.
and
but I mean, you can never. All you can do is do what you do, and hope that people like. I've never done anything with the motivation of, oh, I'm going to make $1 million, like, or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's like, if that happens, then it's a bonus.
Yeah.
But if I was able to just make a living doing comedy, I'm still doing better than 99% of people in the world, because most people are stuck in some life that they if you ask them if they could do it all over again, they wouldn't choose what they did.
Well,
I've always done whatever I wanted to do, and I always said I got no regrets.
Well, and my very first year, I did a show in my hometown at a place called Yuck Yucks. So Yuck Yucks in Canada is like, it's nationwide. It's the Bonkers, or
right. It's like a Funny Bone.
Yeah, like Funny Bones, and it's a great club. And if you play a Yuck Yucks, it's like, okay, I'm playing Yuck Yucks. And one of the owners of Yuck Yucks, Howard Wagman, very well respected. I was
going to say, I've heard of this person.
Yeah, very well respected. So after I did Yuck Yucks in Ottawa, it was like my fourth show, period.
Right.
He come into the green room after, and he goes, "Hey, Brian." I said, "Yeah, Mr. Wagman, how are you?" He said, "Good." And so I didn't want to say, "How'd you like the show?" I knew he was going to tell me.
Sure.
He goes, "Brian, can I give you some constructive criticism?" And I go, "Yes, sir." He goes, "So you spent 44 years in hockey." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I didn't hear one hockey story. You're in the capital of Canada. I didn't hear one hockey story up there." I said, "Well, Mr. Wagner," he said, "No, call me Howard." I said, "Well, Howard," I said, "I worked 44 years in hockey and I was sick of it." I said, "I just don't want to talk about it." And he said, "Well, here's your little bit of advice, Brian. In Canada and the U.S., you're one of about 3 million that think they're funny." Okay? He goes, "But if you take your hockey background and build that into your brand and build it into your show, you're one of maybe 15,000.
Right.
And you're going to get work that other guys aren't going to get."
Right.
So I talked to my son, who works in politics, and I said, "This is what happened." He goes, "Well, he's right, Dad." And I said, "Well, I need a new brand. My tour was called the No Days Off Tour, and I said, I need a new brand." And he goes, "Okay." He goes, "Let me think about it, and you think about it." He called me back an hour later. He said, "I got your new brand. Open your computer." Out the computer, he sent me some graphics that said "Funny as Puck." I go, "Jesus, that's brilliant,"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Yeah." Howard told me it was brilliant. And so funny as puck last year, I did 89, 90 shows last year.
Right.
Okay. I'm on track to do 120, 130 this year. Now it's funny as puck 2025.
Right.
You know, I'm not changing it. And
I probably did. Like I said, I've been home for a year, but the 2 years before that, I probably did 300 or more shows. I mean,
yeah,
I went across the country 3 times.
yeah, yeah.
People are like, you're
No,
crazy. It's like, what do you mean? Like,
No.
what the fuck else you want me to do? Like, I'm
Well,
not.
like somebody asked, like, what do you get out of this? How do you know you're doing good? I said the first time they laugh at a show, these endorphins build up.
Oh yeah.
And
Sure.
I said, and you just want to keep them laughing. And I said, my rule of thumb is I can tell a 5-minute story, but they better laugh every 22 seconds or I'm going to lose them.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, and I faced a lot of criticism doing this. I faced people that said, you know, why are you doing that? Like, you know, because
Well, that's a formula. Like if you read all those books, like that's what they say. But
yeah,
I've kind of just managed to create my own style.
yeah. Well, I've gotten to that. You know, I've gotten to that point. You know, my crowd work when I first started, I didn't want to insult anybody, and then
you know, I've been doing stand up for almost 15 years now.
Oh wow!
And I hardly ever talk to the crowd.
Well,
I hardly ever interact with the audience. Hardly ever. And for some reason, like they don't interact with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't get hecklers or nobody. I've bombed before and still no one heckles. It's just quiet. But you know what I'm saying? Is like for some reason nobody tries to confront me, and I don't know why that is. I've never been able to figure that out. Like because most everybody that I know has had those kinds of things happen.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they just leave me alone. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm scary to them or something.
When I first saw you, I go, George Carlin not die? You know, he's a George Carlin, but no, and I have fun with it now. I just, you know, and but I was playing a place. I don't know if you ever played it in North Hollywood, the Federal. You ever play the Federal?
I have not.
Okay, well,
I didn't do a lot of Hollywood.
Well, it was a great room.
I moved to Vegas and I stayed there.
Yeah,
and I worked my way around in Vegas for a couple of years.
Yeah,
and then I started going out on the road, and then.
Well,
I always wanted to be a road comic like that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I can't.
Like to me, that's part of it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to live in LA and just go to the Comedy Store every night.
No,
I mean? And not that that's not cool. But I like I said, I like traveling. I like to do my material in different places and see how the people react. You know what I mean? Like, and if you're in the same place all the time, it gets stale.
Oh yeah, it gets it's like I've done. I don't know how many shows in my 4 years, but I've done 4 in Vancouver. That's it.
No, that's what I mean. You just sit around your hometown.
Yeah.
And go to the same place every night, you know.
Yeah. A guy called me a couple of weeks ago. He had to move a show to a different venue here in Cholak, and he calls me and he goes, "Hey, you want to come in and feature?" I said, "No." And he goes, "Well," he said, "I need a feature. You know, I'm coming in." I said, "Well, I can send you a list of numbers of guys that are out of, you know, the Fraser Valley or Vancouver and that, but no, I'm not featuring at that pub." I said, "You know," I said, "you're going to be the first comedy show in there."
Right.
And I said I might come and watch because I want to see, how they handle it.
Right.
You know, the TVs were still on, and
yeah, exactly. Well, that's the other thing. That's why I was saying earlier. It's like it's good for a comic, especially in the beginning, to do as many different kinds of places as they can.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you go into places where like everything's stacked up against you. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I remember one time I was doing. I swear to God, I was on stage and the World Series was on the TV.
Oh,
And eventually I was just like, I just started talking about the game.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, because no one was paying a fuck attention to me. I was like, oh, well, let's just watch this game then.
Even I,
it's like, because like I said, it's not conducive to comedy. It's like, but it's good to do those things and struggle.
Oh,
It makes you a better performer.
Oh,
Um,
Steve and I did a weekend at Cactus Peaks in Jackpot, Nevada, right on the Idaho border.
right.
And Steve was headlining, I was featuring, but it was just the two of us, and it was like we did 45 minutes each, because it's a 90-minute show.
Right.
And it's a bonk club. So Friday night they start the show at 9 because all the people coming from Boise and that after work. So they start the show at 9. And it was, it was great. And then Saturday night, Steve walks out, peeks out the curtain. He goes, "It's going to be a tough one tonight, Brian." And, I go, "Why? What's going on?" He said, "There's probably 40 people in camo wearing there, right?" And so I joked. So anyway, I went out on stage and, it's in my head, right? And I look around and I see all these guys and girls wearing camo. I said, "Oh, I like the choice of attire tonight." I said I was going to wear my camo pants, but I couldn't find them.
Right.
Boy, they're doing a good fucking job. I thought it was funny. They did.
So all I see is a bunch of heads looking at.
Oh, you don't know they're camel.
Like floating heads. Yeah, like I said, sometimes it's good to struggle. Because you can always tell. I always say you can always tell club comics if dudes that just only stay in the clubs. Because if you take them out to like a bar show where everything is not monitored for them and like the audience isn't kept quiet and like they actually have to control the room, they can't do it. And then they get pissy because people aren't listening to them or whatever. And it's like, well, you got to be better.
But you're spot on. You're up there talking. You're a clack.
If you just stay in clubs all the time, it makes you soft, I think.
Yeah.
Because I said that environment is too structured and it's too easy.
Yeah.
It's like batting practice. You know, where like they're just lobbing these balls into you and you hit them. But if you go out to the bars, now you got to make these people listen to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you do that enough, once you go back to a club, you're just like stomping all over the place.
Well, and when you do a bar, some of your audience is there by default because...
No, I mean, some of them don't even know there was a comedy show. They're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, and they showed up, and that's where they go every Thursday night.
Right.
Tonight, comedy. And so they pay their $10 and they go in. And so they've got an edge on because they just paid 3 beers to get into the place, you know? And so
this guy better be worth it.
You gotta win there.
No, that's what I'm saying. It makes you a stronger comedian.
Oh yeah, it makes sense. I never thought of that. My wife did ask me like what's the difference because I'm doing theaters and casino showrooms and comedy clubs and bars. I said bars are the toughest. I said they're the toughest. I said, you got the TVs, you got people at the bar talking, you got the bell ringing if there's a big tip, you know.
Sure, or like I said, I've done casinos where you weren't really in a room, kind of, so you could still hear the machines and shit. No, I swear. And you have to learn how to be able to block all that out and still give your performance.
Well, one thing I learned.
Once you get to the point where you can do that, then like I said, you become a really strong performer.
Well, and one thing I learned doing a casino showroom one night is I have this habit, when the show's over, I go to the exit door to thank them.
Sure. Well, you always should.
Yeah. So
or sell merch if you have merch. Like I have T-shirts and shit.
Yeah. Well, the manager grabbed me. He goes, "Where are you going?" I said, "Well, I'm going to the door to shake hands, thank people, take a few pictures." No. I go, "What?" He said, "No. We want them in the casino now. We want them out of here quick." He said, "You don't need to be back there holding them up." And he was serious. So I went back to the green room. You know. Now that's something that happened a couple of times, but some places they tell you right ahead, you know, no, we don't want you doing that. Right. In Cactus Pete's, Steve and I went outside the showroom, and it's a neat. I don't know if you've ever played Jackpot, or Cactus Pete's. It's a neat showroom. It's like the 1950s with the big fanned out, you know.
Oh, see, I love that shit.
Booths. Oh yeah, it was.
Used to play this place it was in Bloomington, Indiana, called Bear's Place, and they had like an old velvet curtain. Like
no kidding.
It felt like an old lounge, you know, like you said, like a speakeasy kind of feel.
Yeah.
I love that kind of shit.
Oh, me too. Me too. I get a kick out of you know, the comedy clubs or the theaters where you walk in and they come and they bring you a brand new Sharpie and they ask you to sign the wall, and I'm looking at some of the names on the wall and I'm going, I'm like
that place Bears, that was like that. It was like there was all these pictures on the walls, like Roseanne Barr, and like, you know, I mean, I'm talking about like through the years, all these people, Richard Lewis, and you know, like, and you realize, hey, I'm on the same path. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I've been. Where was I at? McCurdy's
in Florida.
Yeah, in Sarasota, and they had a Richard Lewis picture on the wall, and before he passed away, me and him used to talk on the Twitter sometimes, Messenger, and so I took a picture of his picture, and was like, "Hey, I'm in Sarasota, check it out." He's like, "Oh wow!" Like, you're like, that's like I said, that's the part of the journey of being a comic. And then you realize, like I said, like I drove, I got in a fight with this guy that I work with because I drove from Vegas to Pasadena to do the Ice House before I left.
Okay.
I was moving away. And, you know, the Ice House is where, like, people put on shows there. Like, it's not like, I mean, they have some book stuff, but most of the time it's like, so-and-so's putting on a show in this room, and it's so-and-so and his friends or whatever, you know, or... So this girl I know is doing an open mic show, and she was doing it there, and she was like, "Oh well, you can come and do a spot," and I just wanted to do the Ice House.
Yeah.
So I drove from Vegas to Pasadena to do it, and he started yelling. I mean, he was like, "I can't believe you're driving all that way to do a fucking open mic." Blah, 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 you know, and I was like, I just want to do the Ice House so I can say I did it.
Yeah.
You know, because it's such a legendary place, and who knows
if
it will be open forever, you know, like, and if you'd ever have the opportunity to do it. And I just wanted to say that I had been on that stage, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, to me, it was worth it. And then I got there, same thing. All these pictures are on the wall of all these fucking famous people that had Mitch's picture was on the wall. I'm like, hey, this is why I fucking came here.
Exactly.
Like we were talking about earlier, it ain't got nothing to do with the fucking money.
Yeah. So my first time doing the Comedy Store, I was I was pretty excited about it,
Right.
but they told me, okay, you're Wednesday in La Jolla, you're Thursday, Friday, Saturday in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
So La Jolla, it was like, I call it Comedy Store Light, but
Right.
I'm glad I did that because the logo was there and it gave me that. I got rid of any trepidation, you know.
Right.
And then when I went to the Comedy Store in Hollywood, I go, okay, well, I've got this.
You weren't overwhelmed by the moment.
Yeah, but when I walked in and then you see all those pictures,
yes.
then it was, ooh.
Well, I went there. It was, you know, it is amazing just to, it's like, it was like the ice house I told you guys. It's like playing in the comedy museum, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and the comedy store is the same way. It's like, dude, everyone that you ever loved, or even the people that influenced you doing comedy, they played there.
Yeah.
Know?
Well,
like Hicks was there, and Carlin, and Richard Pryor, and all these, you know, all these fucking people that you wouldn't be a comedian if.
Yeah.
It's like you're either. There's not a lot of people left, I don't think, in my experience, who really are immersed in what it is to be a comedian and like have respect for the art. Especially nowadays, there's all these people that think that stand up is easy. You know, and they're like, oh, this just a guy standing up there. I could do that, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why you see all these fucking washed up musicians and shit are like, well, I'll do stand up now. You know, they never laugh. They go away. Like, it's like because they find out it ain't that fucking easy, bro. It takes a long time and a lot of sweat and a lot of public humiliation to get really good at it.
And the thing is, you know, you're not up there. Like I played a club in Alberta, and there was a local guy. He was the opener, and he'd won a contest, and so he was getting 7.5 minutes.
Right. And he won a contest, so his ego's all pumped up. Sure.
Oh yeah. So anyway, he's in the back room.
You see those guys all the time.
And he looks at me and he goes, what part of town do you live in? I said, I don't live here. I said, I live in Vancouver. He said, well, what are you doing here? And there's a little person that was hosting the show.
Right.
And he toured with me in the Maritimes, Canadian Maritimes last year. And Josh looked at the guy and he goes, what do you think he's doing here? He's the headliner. He came in and then the guy goes, how much are you getting paid? And looked at
none of your fucking business.
Yeah. I looked at Josh.
That's slightly more than you, sir.
Josh goes, he's not working here for a slice of pizza.
Right.
He said, just get ready. So the guy you got 7 minutes. You'll get the light at 6. The guy ran out of material at 3. Okay. Then he starts going into, hey, did I ever tell you I have this uncle? And I'm standing at the back by the sound booth, and I looked at the sound engineer, and I go, oh, this is not going to be good. And
you never seen those guys. There's always these guys that like he's the funny guy at the office or something.
Yeah.
And so they go, you should do stand-up comedy. And so he signs up for the open mic, and all of his coworkers come, and usually he's the guy that has the room filled up with people. And you're like, oh, there's 25 people here just to see this guy, you know. And then he's all like, yeah, I'm fucking funny at the office. And then he gets up there and fucking eats shit. Because you're like, it ain't the same, bro.
Yeah.
It's just like when you meet someone at a bar or something, and you tell. I don't even tell people anymore because I got fucking sick of it. As soon as you say, I'm a comedian, they go, oh, well, tell me a joke to be funny, you know. And you're like, it ain't like that. It's a performance. Like there's a mic, and the lights and you know, and like these aren't jokes that you just print off the internet. You know, that's not how it works. You know what I mean?
My favorite line when I get that, it's one I use a lot of times in hockey when somebody'd say, "Hey, do you want to go skating?" I'd say, "Does a mailman go for a walk on his day off?" You know.
Right.
So yeah. So guys at the border do it all the time too. You know, they'll look at my work papers and everything, and they'll go, "Okay, tell us something funny." And I'm standing there going like, "Okay, okay, yeah, I got, you know,
But
like,
nobody does that to anybody else.
yeah, yeah."
They'll go, "Oh, I see you're a secretary. Why don't you take me a letter from my mom?" You know, like
Oh, you're an exotic dancer.
like,
Show me your.
like, oh, yeah. Show me your tits. Nobody does that.
Yeah,
But for some reason, people think they can do that to a comedian.
yeah.
And it's like, it's not
But
cool. It's like, I'm not a fucking monkey here to wind up and amuse you. You know, whatever. You know, like
Yeah.
come to the show.
But I got.
Or listen to my album.
got
Or, you know, like, there's lots of ways to experience the comedy.
And I am really lucky because I got friends that are like a good support group for me. There's a guy down in Salt Lake City. His name's Guy Holm. Guy's an ex equipment manager out of the NHL. And guy has this funny sense of humor, but he's also a big on Photoshop. And I'll open up my messenger one day, and there's a picture of me swimming across a cup of coffee or something, and
Right.
guy just sends it to me, and I'll message him back. Can I use this? He go, oh yeah, use it. You know, and he's like every 100 messages from him, he'll say, you know, I'm really happy for you. You're doing what you want to do, and he goes, don't let anybody drag you down. You know, and it's nice to have people around like that, and you know, and my son, my wife, my daughter, you know, they're all they understand what I'm doing, and they understand it's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Yes.
You know, and I got you know, I've had some great opportunities. I did about 15 shows over in the UK. Learned over there real quick. There's a word you can use on stage over there that you can't use in North America, and they expect it. They expect
it. See, I want to do that.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying that's my dream. I want to go. I want to come to Canada. I want to do comedy in the UK. You know, like I would love to do that kind of shit.
I think we could. The thing I would like to do is you, Steve, and myself. It'd be a 3 headline show. You know.
Sure.
It'd be, you know, yeah, I'd love to do that. You know, I like working with good comedians because they make me work that much harder.
Oh, I always say that.
Yeah, there's
a thing that some guys do where they intentionally bring like a weak opener.
Yeah,
like on purpose. Because they don't want anybody to show them up or whatever. And I'm always like, fuck that. Well, I want the guy to be smoking so that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, on my...
No, I got to be really good or else I'm going to suck. You know, and it puts the fucking pressure on you.
My Atlantic Canada tour, there's a guy that's touring with me named Chris Connolly.
Right.
Well, ironically, Chris is my cousin. Mm-hmm. He's my cousin's son. And... He is good, and last May when we were in Atlantic Canada, you know, I came off after my set in Yuck Yucks in Halifax. He goes, "You killed it." I said, "Because of you." And he goes, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "Chris, you knocked it out of the park." I said, "You pissed me off. You were so good."
Right. Then you're like, I got to show him.
Yeah. You freaking knocked it out of the park. And he does that all the time. He's very, very good. And him and I have contrasting styles.
Right.
He's a matter-of-fact guy, and he just, like, he's a skateboarder. he's got the long hair. He looks like Jesus.
Right.
You know, and then we had Josh Haskett with us. You know, the little person I told you about, who was really good. The only thing about where Josh and I would get into a bit of a tiff was when he would introduce me, I'd have to move that mic stand way back up again. But no, Josh, and we had a good crew there last year. And Chris is going to be with me again this year in Atlantic Canada, and he is. I really enjoy working with him. Really enjoy, and he's family, you know. And it's but I enjoy working. Like I say, when you watch the opener, and if I'm featuring or even headlining, if I'm headlining and then I watch the feature and they've got it, you know, it's like sports. You know, you got to bring your A game.
Yes.
You got a weak opener, weak feature, then you're just going out and trying to get through the night.
Right.
You know.
Well, then you said something like, now I got to bring up the energy in this room. What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the opener's job is to get you ready for the headliner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, oh man, I can't wait for this guy to be done, and then
well,
now you're starting in a hole. You know what I mean? Like you got to dig yourself out of a hole. It's not even your hole.
Yeah. Well, I did a show in North Carolina last summer, and I didn't know the guys I was working with, and the feature had said to me, he said, "Is there anything you stay away from?" I said, "Yeah, politics." I said, "Okay." I said, I don't do any politics whatsoever. He goes, "Well, you're Canadian anyway." And I go, "Well, we have politics in Canada too, you know." He goes up there and he literally split the room with his political talk, you know. And like, he wasn't Steve Hofstetter. Steve Hofstetter can go up and split the room, but still own it. You know what I mean? This guy,
I know Steve. I used to open for him years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
I actually met him. I actually met Hofstetter in that place I was telling you about in Indiana.
Okay.
Bear's place, years and years ago.
Yeah. So I went up and did my 45 minutes trying to pull the room back together again.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, you're starting in a hole that you didn't even create this fucking hole. Like,
yeah. Like being in a relay and they dropped the baton when they were passing it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, but hey,
I just want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I know I got a little bit graphic early.
Oh, you're totally fine. And hopefully, like I said, we were talking, I would like to work with you.
Well,
hopefully we can make that happen.
Yeah, we can for sure. And I'm actually driving through your part of the country in May. I mean, I've got to make time because I'm driving from Oregon to Niagara Falls from one show to my next show. I got a week, but I'm driving through in May, and if you're playing anywhere and midweek that week, I'll drop in to see you for sure. I'll stay in touch, and but thank you for having me on. Thank you for letting me be a proud Canadian and vent.
I'm glad. You're welcome to come on anytime.
Well, I appreciate it.
Brian Patafi, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Anytime, my friend. 1 second.
Okay. Bye now.
All right. Thank you guys for listening, watching, however you're digesting the show. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And I'll be back on Thursday. 6 p.m. Eastern. Thank you.